Farmers across Guyana's coastal belt have over the last 3 days endorsed the policies of the government in its investments in pushing the advancement of agriculture in Guyana. At meetings held in Regions 2, 3, 5, and 6, President Dr. Irfan Ali, accompanied by Agriculture Minister Zulfikar Mustafa, farmers of all categories have together and according to sector been engaged in the plans of the government for the next 5 years. In Region 2 Saturday, at a meeting with rice and cash crop farmers along with fisherfolk in Anna Regina, the President announced that 20,000 acres of lands will be made available in 3 agricultural clusters across the region, providing new opportunities and resources for rice farmers, cash crop growers, and fisherfolk. In addition, for farmers in all of the rice-growing regions, the President announced that they will now have the choice of choosing to receive 1 bag of fertilizer per acre of land cultivated or the equivalent in cash. At all the meetings, President Ali stressed that the government is always one that listens to the nation's farmers in policy development and implementation.
I want us to think ahead of us and to see how together for our fisherfolk, our rice farmers, our cash crop farmers, how we're going to make agriculture and food production sustainable and profitable. And when I say profitable, I don't want your children to see agriculture as something to get out of. I want them to see opportunities in agriculture. And that is what I want to talk to you about. How do we create an environment, an ecosystem to tell the young people here in Essequibo that you have a government that you can trust to back you in your agricultural investment. And that is important. You know that you can trust this government when you're in good times or bad times when it comes to agriculture in this country. That is something that you all know. And if you are believing that you don't know this, then you're stifling your conscience. So today, there are a few things I want to address. First of all, in Essequibo, we have the issue of land ownership. A lot of persons who are planting 30 acres and less, 1,000 plus such farmers, they're renting land. Renting land from people overseas, renting land from the bigger farmers. Am I not right? Yes or no? Yes. So we have to fix that problem. So how do we fix this problem? We can't go and take away people's land. But we are going to invest in the coming months to open up at least 20,000 acres of land in 3 different clusters here in Essequibo. You have 3 clusters. And when I say open up the land, it's not only opening the land by creating the infrastructure. We want to identify these farmers between 1 to 30 acres. We're going to work with you by making the capital investment to empower those land, to give you the seed paddy, to create the drainage and irrigation, and to make it ready for you to go and farm. So that we remove that cost of rental, we give you land ownership, and we give you an opportunity now to own your own land. That's the first thing that we have to fix. And that is immediate. So you heard me say 3 clusters. Why did I say 3 clusters? I said 3 clusters because I want us to take ownership more among ourselves. So the farmers will tear me tail if drainage ain't working, if pumping working, if culvert ain't working. Is that true? Here is what my plan is, and I want to raise with you. We're going to organize the coast, the region into 3 clusters. And for farmers, 30 acres and below, because the other farmers, they have their own combine and so on. In each cluster, we're going to put a set of equipment. So each cluster, you will have your own management among the farmers. You will take the own responsibility. We'll put, for example, a backhoe maybe a tractor with a plow, and a combine in each cluster. And you manage those resources. You can charge each other among yourself so that you get to maintain the equipment, you get to upkeep the equipment with the fuel and everything. So in these three clusters, I don't want you to say, a miller got to come and deduct your money now, give you fertilizer, give you your combine, or plow your land, and then when you carry the paddy, he got to deduct his money for all of that. I want you to own each cluster, to own, so we'll have to organize ourselves. So each cluster would own these pieces of equipment. When I say cluster too, I know our friends from Mainstay, I'm not only speaking about rice here, you know. I'm going to come specifically to cash crop and how we get back to those pineapple production and everything here. So that's the second initiative based on existing problems. Reducing that input cost, making you owners of your own equipment, and you got to take responsibility for it, because if you broke it up, you ain't gonna blame me. It is time for us to take our own management responsibility for these things. So you have the backhoe, you fix your drainage problem. We're going to continue to support the DNI on the main drainage and all of these things. But you have a quick culvert that needs to be fixed, so that you have assets at your disposal. I don't want to hear people say, I got to wait on the region engineer, and if he in a bad, or he or she in a bad or good mood, then they decide what time they're sending out the machine. We're going to empower you, put that power in your own hands. Then the other issue is about storage. We can increase the capacity, giving you better variety, get better yield, and all of these things. But how do we address the issue of drying and storage? And you can't dry because we have unpredictable weather. So we go to invest in 2 modern drying and storage facilities here in the region.
Earlier in the week, the president was in Region 5, where he told an appreciative audience comprising farmers and residents that government will be making available an additional 54,000 acres of lands for various agricultural pursuits in the MMA scheme. This disclosure was among a suite of measures announced aimed at advancing the region's agriculture sector. The president spoke of the major Hope-like Canal, which is set to be constructed in Region 5 to relieve the incidence of flooding there, which will unlock the 54,000 acres of prime agricultural lands for rice, cash crops, and livestock rearing. The president said the government wants to sit with farmers and to see a mechanism that can be arrived at through which these lands will not only be allocated, but also how they will be planned out. A new wholesale market equipped with cold storage will be established in the region to reduce spoilage and improve profitability. This move will eliminate the need for farmers to transport produce to Georgetown, enabling them to sell locally. Looking ahead, the president said technologies will be incorporated into key agricultural services, including real-time extension support via mobile phones. He emphasized that Region 5 plays a pivotal role in the government's broader food security strategy and export ambitions. As such, the administration remains committed to making strategic investments that support the livelihoods of thousands of farmers. President Ali also encouraged farmers to help identify priorities and solutions that could shape the government's development agenda for 2025 to 2030. Across in Region 6, the president shared with farmers and residents government's vision for agricultural development over the next 5-year term.
Our aim in the next 5 years is to position Guyana as the food capital of the region. To do that, we'll have to make tremendous investment in the land, the people, the infrastructure, and the market. And to do that, you have to have a government that is committed to this, committed to making the investment in the land, the people, the infrastructure, and the market. And if you look at agriculture in isolation of the investments we are making, then we will be making a serious mistake. Because if the dam is bad and you can't cut the rice in time, you lose production. If the dam is bad and you can't bring out your produce, you lose production. If you have overproduction of one crop and you don't have storage capacity, you lose. If you have excessive rainfall and you don't have the drainage system, you lose. If you have to line up at the Berbice Bridge to take your produce to the market, it reduces the life of your produce. If you have to pay to cross the bridge, it increases the cost of transportation. If you have access for direct export from here to the rest of the region and internationally, it expands your market. You follow what I'm saying? That is why all of these investments are so critically integrated with each other. When we announce free crossing over the Berbice River Bridge, it is not only for those who see themselves as passengers, it is for every category. When we invest in D&I, when we build a Hope-like canal, when we invest in the share houses, in hydroponics, all of these things are linked in order to make agriculture and food production sustainable. And I'm talking to you today about food production, of which agriculture is an important component. But before I get there, because I want to talk to you about the future, let me say to you that before you decide who supports agriculture, you have to understand the philosophy of different governments. We did not say rice is private business. So the philosophy of leaders and governments is to see rice as private interests. Then they will have absolutely no interest in public investment because they see this as a private enterprise alone. That's the first thing. We're talking about philosophy. If you have a government that does not understand the wider socioeconomic implications for the sugar sector, then again, it affects their policy-making mechanism because they will not be in support of the sector. And we saw this in the last government. So, you must also ask yourselves a question. Who can you trust? Who can you trust in doing what they say they will do? Maybe there are challenges, but ultimately, who can you trust? Who will take responsibility? We don't shy away from issues. We address issues. We're the forefront of issues. Taking responsibility. Who will make the investment? Ashley said to you, when we go to Parliament and ask for more money for D&I, and ask for more money for farm to market access road, you must listen to the type of questions that come from the opposition. You must listen to the type of questions that comes from them. And then you will have an appreciation for the philosophy, the mentality, the thinking, and what is driving their thinking. So that's the first thing I want us to understand. We must have a clear vision. We must have a clear understanding. We must have a holistic approach through which we look at our future and who can support that future the best. Now, we have been able to live rice all our life. We can sit here today and document the history of rice and all its challenges. We can also document and speak about the successes. We can also document and speak about the support from government. But I also want us to talk a bit about how do we move this sector even faster forward and more profitable forward. And there are some key things, because I've sat with rice farmers all across this country, that rice farmers will talk about. One is, how do we reduce our input costs? How do we reduce our input costs? How do we reduce our costs for fuel, our drainage and irrigation costs, our land preparation costs? How do we reduce that input cost? And the government, we will tell you that in the last 5 years, we have collected zero tax on fuel. Zero tax on fuel. So you're paying zero tax on fuel. That is tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that we have given up in taxes on fuel alone.
The Guyanese leader also disclosed plans for empowering farmers through the establishment of drying and storage facilities for rice farmers, help in reducing spoilage of paddy in the field, help in reducing cost of production, etc.
One is that we have to reduce the spoilage of paddy. To do that, we need modern drying and storage facility. Modern drying and storage facility that will allow the farmers to store their paddy without infestation for a longer period of time. So if the market collapses in a particular period, we have long-term storage to enhance long-term storage of international standard. And that is the first thing. Drying and storage facility. Increasing our yield and productivity. Having more varieties available. How do we ensure that we maximize our yield and productivity? Importantly too, for the rice farmers, we have to look at a system of integrated farms, where we say for every 10 acres of rice farm, we use 1 acre for a high value, high yielding commodity. So we reduce the risk, we increase productivity, we expand and diversify our income base. So one of the things that we will support you on, so one, we have to co-invest on the storage and drying facility, modern storage and drying facility. Two, we have to continue to work with you on increasing yield and productivity. Three, we will be working with you on how to create these integrated farms and identify crops with the technology and the support for you to start up these integrated farms. So if you have 100 acres of rice farm and you have 10 acres dedicated for a high value crop that is backed by technical support and technological support, then you're diversifying your risk portfolio. You're expanding your income portfolio, and we make your agriculture more versatile.
The ministers would have already said some of the support that we have already given to maintain the pricing. But we have to also look, and we're committing to you that we are going to look at the sustainability of the industry in ensuring, as we move forward in a new term, that we create a mechanism through which farmers have less delay in receiving their payment. Because this is important. Because sometimes farmers are halfway into the second crop and now receiving the payment for the first crop. So that is why we have to find this partnership. We have to find this partnership between the sector and the government to ensure that we create the mechanism. I speak about co-financing. I speak about a special development fund in a partnership. Remember the word is partnership. What is the most important element in partnership? Trust. And who are the partners in this government you can trust to enter into a partnership with you and commit itself to what that partnership is about? It is this People's Progressive Party civic government.
For the sugar sector, plans are in train to make sugar workers business partners in the business of sugar production.